entrepreneurs and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know there's a million different places you could be, and so we're honored that you chose to be here, right, with Getting the Edge. We are here each and every week talking to business owners and community leaders. We want to talk talk about their businesses and their products and services, but our real niche here at Getting the Edge is sharing stories. I'm a firm believer that we can learn so much from each other's stories, so that's what we do each and every week. Getting the Edge is a product of Edge Business Magazine. Yeah, for more information, you can check out edgebusinessmagazine.com. Check out the latest issue of Edge Business Magazine. This was our new year not-for-profit issue where we highlighted 10 plus nonprofit organizations as well as the leaders that lead them. So you can subscribe online today and never miss a copy. Have a personal printed, custom printed copy delivered directly to your home or office. So definitely check that out. We have a new issue that we're working on. Our spring hospitality issue launches this spring. We'll be launching late May. Really excited with this hospitality where we'll feature and highlight up to 10 local leaders, CEOs in the hospitality industry. I can't talk today. So definitely, if you'd like to get involved, we'd love to have your participation. Again, for more information, you can email us at info@edgebusinessmagazine.com. We are transforming into Edge Media Hub. Really excited. We have a brand new website launching mid-March, right about March 15th, where we'll take really our community approach that I've been and our team has been building for the last almost 7 years, and combining that with data and analytics and just the power that we really need to take Edge, our partners, advertisers, contributors, all of us to the next level. So a lot more details about that coming up as well. Would love to thank our sponsors for allowing us the opportunity to be here today. I'd like to thank All Trust Insurance, your trusted employee benefits partner, as well as Pilot Bank, and WeBeam TV and Tampa Bay Multimedia. If you're looking for your own platform, something like Getting the Edge, definitely consider checking out Tampa Bay Multimedia, and I can't recommend them highly enough. I've been working with John Gaston and his team for years, and highly recommend them. So again, check them out, Tampa Bay Multimedia. And again, thank you for being with us today. Really excited to have with me Andy Wilson, President and CEO of Quiet Professionals. So thank you, Andy. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Kelly, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
I appreciate what you're doing.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you. It's funny, you know, sometimes lunches where you go and connect with different people. I want to say it was October where we sat down and had lunch, and got to give a shout out to Bob Clark for the connections and everything that he does with the community. So thanks to Bob Clark.
He's a great man.
Andy and I are now friends. Yeah, he really is. He's been a great supporter. I don't know. So Bob Clark does the lunches in the community every Thursday or Friday.
At the Columbia restaurant. Yeah.
He is the owner of the Tampa Steel
and Erection Company.
Great
right.
story there too. We'll have to get Bob on the show one of these days. But yeah, so thanks to Bob. And one of my other favorite people from that lunch was Penny Parks.
Penny Parks is great.
Penny's been on the show before.
Ago,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
A lot of fun too. Yeah. So again, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
So the Quiet Professionals, like that's such a cool name.
It is.
It is. I should have named my company the Quiet Professionals.
It's a good one. I don't know if you could take it. I think we already have it for the state
No,
of Florida.
yeah, I guess you do. I'll let you have it. But it's unique and it's cool. Do people ask you often, like, where the name came from?
They do, actually. It's funny because I started several companies in the past after retiring out of the military. And in starting Quiet Professionals, my thought was, I need to find something that's unique, something that's different, but it has to resonate with people, especially the people that we're dealing with clients and future employees. And I wanted it to be professional, so I know I wanted the word professional in there, but I didn't want to be boisterous. I didn't want to be outspoken. We wanted to be quiet. We wanted to be silent. And I thought, Quiet Professional is perfect. And so the first thing you do when you pick a company name is Google it to make sure that something erroneous doesn't come up on the internet. So, of course, as soon as I punched it in for a Google search, it's synonymous with the quiet professionals with the Green Berets, of which I was a Green Beret in the
I was going to say,
military
that's
before
like
retiring.
perfectly fitting then.
So the fact that I came up with the name Quiet Professionals didn't seem so original after I figured out that it was in my brain already for some reason. So it actually fits perfect because we're a defense contracting company, and I think the name was great. So to show you how great the name was, when I got back into the business, because I had owned a defense contracting company prior to Quiet Professionals, I went to my first business meeting at the Center Club, and it was a networking meeting, and someone asked me, so who are you with? Now this was the day after I started the company, so it was just me, employee number one, and that was back in 2013, and I said, oh, I'm with Quiet Professionals. And he said, oh, great company, I've heard of them, they're wonderful, very fortunate to be part of that group. I said, yeah, I think so too, thank you. Yeah,
So
that's
did
the
they
story.
had already heard of you, or
They'd
because of
already
the Green Beret, or because
I think because
you'd already made an impact in the community?
Well, I definitely don't think it was because I had made an impact with that company since it was day two. But I will say that I think that the name resonates with everybody throughout the military,
Okay.
simply because they've heard the term quiet professionals before, and it's always attached to very professional special operation forces.
Wow. Well, okay, so 2013. So you're in your seventh now.
Seventh
You're
year, yeah.
growing.
So we are growing.
Yeah, 7 is, I think, a good number. Edge will be 7 in September. So it's,
Outstanding.
yeah, 2013 was a good year.
It was.
Well, it was hard to get things going,
was
but
very
it
hard.
was definitely a memorable year
It
when you look
was.
back at being able. Time goes so fast, right?
It does. This
hard.
year is going very fast.
It's already March.
It's already March.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's something that we have to deal with as we continue to get older. The time just continues to speed up and go faster and faster.
It does. Why is that?
I don't know. I was going to ask you.
I haven't figured that out yet.
You
so
can't
you
share
do.
that information.
I can't
with us.
yet. I'm still searching for the
All right.
answer.
Well,
I'll
if you
come
figure
back.
that, yeah, please do, because I'm still working on that
Okay.
one. So let's talk about your past a little bit. We mentioned Green Beret, and for someone not very military, I don't know a lot as far. I mean, you know of your basic services. Is that the right word you'd use?
Correct.
But tell us a little bit about Green Beret.
Okay. So the Quiet Professionals, the Green Berets, were started many years ago. Back when the military figured out that we couldn't just use conventional forces for some of the things that we were doing on the battlefield. We needed to do some unconventional type thinking.
So kind of like Navy SEALs, but a different division.
Very, very close. The Navy SEALs, of course, are with the Navy, and so the Navy SEALs sister or brother unit is the Green Berets in the Army. So it's the Army's, the Army's faction. Now, the Navy SEALs, of course, are focused primarily on the sea and amphibious operations. They do land operations also, of course. The Green Berets focus more on land operations. But there is cross-training between the two. In fact, the scuba detachments inside of a Green Beret team will actually go through the same or similar training as the Navy SEALs go through when they go to their BUDS training. And in fact, some of the Navy SEALs are instructors at the Special Forces qualification course for scuba.
Interesting.
Yep.
It's a long process as far as...
It's a long process. There's about a month and a half selection course that you have to go through at Fort Bragg. And if you get selected, it's between a 6 month and 1 year process to go through all the training that's required to become an actual Green Beret.
Interesting. So where did you go to college?
So I went to the University of Phoenix. I actually dropped out of high school, so I didn't finish my college degree until 2003. And it was while I was in the
really?
service, so it was difficult to do with all the deployments and other things that I was doing, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Where did you grow up originally?
So I grew up in Maine, Portland, Maine, actually, in and around that area. So northeast, very cold, harsh winters, which is why now I'm located in Tampa, Florida.
So how many years have you been in Tampa?
We moved to Tampa in 2003, so I guess we're hitting 17 years
Yeah.
now. We moved down here so that I could take a position at the Special Operations Command as the L&O for my unit at
As
Fort
the
Bragg.
L&O? What does that stand
So
for?
it's a liaison,
Oh.
liaison officer. Of course, I was an enlisted person in the military, but they call it a liaison officer. So being the go-between between my unit and Special Operations Command, Department of State, and other entities that we dealt with in managing various command requirements. And we actually moved to Tampa because my wife had an opportunity to open a State Farm insurance agency in 2003. So she twisted my arm, and I told her when it was time for her to start focusing on her career and she opened an agency that I would support her and start slowing down as much as I could. So an opportunity opened up. We moved down, and we've been here ever since, and we love it.
With a lot of the travel, and how long have you been married?
25 years.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
Thank you.
Is that's like that silver special year, isn't it?
It's something special for sure. Right.
Definitely, it's a special. I think every year is special, but 25 marks some kind of special anniversary. Were in a lot of the lines or the work that you did in the military, did you have to be away on your own, or was it like, or she could travel with you a lot?
Oh no, no. So there was no traveling with me. Every trip, every deployment was on my own, and it's hard.
Yeah, I bet.
Military life is hard on military families. I think much harder on the military families, the wives and the children, than it is on the actual servicemen and women. You know, they deserve a lot of credit for what they have to go through in supporting us.
Yeah, definitely.
While we're overseas.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, I was married very young in life, and I have an older son. I can't believe my son will be almost 30 now, but we were young, and I was pregnant. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do? And he was just a year ahead of me, and he said, well, I guess I'm going into the military. You know, we really hadn't. And so he did. And he enlisted in Air Force, but which I'm so proud of him. He actually just retired after almost 30 years in the military. But that was a very difficult. For a very brief time, I was one of the wives, and living on the base, and we had base housing, and I was 19 years old, so we're talking a very young wife, mother. But I just remember thinking it wasn't the life that I just wanted to do so much. And, you know.
Yeah, and it kept you kind of pigeonholed. That's the thing about the military, because a lot of military members have to move from base to base throughout their
It's hard to set down
tenure.
your own roots. And
is.
I mean, it would be easier now with online abilities. And back in the 90s, we didn't necessarily have that. I think we didn't have a computer yet. I want to say they just came out.
It's very true, and one of the things that we've noticed that over time, and I think that the federal government and military has gotten a lot better lately about creating programs for spouses and dependents. And so that's one of the things we're doing here in Tampa. The Hiring Our Heroes program also focuses on military spouses so that we can assist local businesses sign up to assist and take those spouses and soon to be retiring or transitioning service members and give them an interim position with the company in the hopes that they'll be able to be brought on full time. Great program. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Vice President's wife, Karen Pence, will be here next week supporting one of those programs for the Chamber of Commerce. So we'll be attending that and very interested with that. So we're very proud to be part of this community and the business community here. I heard you speaking on one of your other shows, and you're talking about this community and how all the businesses really seem to work together well. It's contagious, and it's great. And I think Tampa Bay is going to become probably the shiny city of the future, ones to follow. This is the city to look at when you want to know what to do, how to do it right, and how to grow for the future. Yeah.
It really is. Yes, it is. It's amazing to see, and I think I feel honored to kind of have that vision of, or I don't know what word you'd use for it, but to see the community working together and to see it kind of working in action as different people are going and trying and working to support each other without expectations of any desired outcome of anything. They do it just because they want us all to work together and succeed.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, it's great to see. Now actually I want to go back to, as far as, there was something I was watching recently that was talking about military spouses, and now might have been even Shark Tank, where it was a business that someone was talking about, and they were talking about how, it could benefit, and give businesses, as more of a franchise type opportunity to military spouses and different things. So it does seem like there's so many different ideas and concepts and different people working to help military spouses and the children.
Yeah, and I think
agree?
I think it's great. I do agree. I think it's great now with the push for new technology. A lot of people can now work from home or work remotely, which is great because as a military spouse or military dependent, they get a great career, they start a job, and 2 years later they got to pick up and move. But the great thing is if they're allowed to work from home or work remotely, and they become a great employee over that period of time, the employer doesn't necessarily want to lose them. So with the internet and computers and innovation in these spaces, that's allowing these things to continue to happen. And so we look at that. I know employers look at that as well, and employers that I know, they do their best to allow those things. But of course, sometimes it's difficult to have remote workers depending on what your operation lines look like.
And you'd mentioned soon to be transitioning. I've just often, as talked to different people as far as that transition out of military and how difficult that can be after you've been. And I've heard it doesn't matter whether you've been in 4 years or your life. That transition after that structure is can be very difficult.
It is, and I'll tell you, Kelly, most people that come out of the military, especially those that are retiring after 20 plus years, 30 years, 32 years, they've moved directly from high school into the military, or some into college and then into the military. So they had never really had that time to experience on their own, and they don't understand necessarily the corporate world. It doesn't work the same in the corporate world as it does in the military world. And being able to translate those skill sets into the needs of the industry that you might be going into is difficult, and there's a lot of apprehension there, simply because for your entire adult life you've never had to do that, and now you're coming out with these great skills, but how do you translate those? How do you transition? How do you align with the companies that might be a good fit for you? And that's why these transition programs are so important here in Tampa, because it gives the employer a chance to look at the employee, gives the employee a chance to basically sit in the driver's seat and see what it's like working in an area where they may be a little bit unfamiliar, but it gives them a chance to kind of transition in. And I think that that's a great thing. So we'll continue supporting those programs that are going on locally. I meet with people all the time. I probably have at least 3 meetings a month with people that reach out to me and ask if they can sit with me if I have a little bit of time because they're transitioning. So I'll bring them into the office and I'll walk them through the path of what I think they can expect. I can't really tell them what to do. The only thing I can do is share my personal experiences and everything I know about transition and civilian life, and certainly if there are entrepreneurs out there, what it's like to run a business, how hard it is, the rewards that you get. And the funny thing is, most people that are coming out of the military, especially if they're retiring, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and they want to start businesses. They think that that's what's going to be right for them. They have some great ideas, but I've seen time and time again where these great ideas get started, but really without the financial backing, it's very, very difficult to just start up and have a business running the way that they might think. And
to live the way that they've been accustomed to. But to their benefit, they typically have some type of pension, right?
That's very true. They typically have some type of pension, but usually when they retire, their paychecks are obviously going to decrease, unless they were a senior general officer with 35 or 40 years. They probably won't have to worry about that part of it. However, what you do notice is, just like through the ranks of the military, just like through the ranks of life, as you move into a different pay grade, a different, maybe a different income level annually, many people will live up to their means. So when you have to drop down from where you were living, that's what we in the business world call risk. So how much risk are you willing to take? How far back are you willing to set yourself, unless you are very conservative and financially astute and you saved enough money to put money into a business that you
And
might want to
typically with
start.
a family, you probably haven't had that opportunity. And military is very family oriented. It seems that there's a lot of families.
It is.
Is that correct?
And it's not just that, but then don't forget that most people in the military, their entire lives have been spent focused on the military. So they've missed most of those Christmases. They've missed most of those birthdays. They've missed most of those baseball games or soccer games or concerts with the children. And so when they retire, especially on the spouse side, they're expecting that now they're going to have some time at home. They won't have to deploy. They can give the family more time. And that's very important. And so starting up a business, as you well know, you're working 7 days a week and there is not a lot of time off. You're doing 8 to 12-hour days every day.
Yes, yeah.
And not a lot of vacations.
It's
if
probably
any.
not that structured schedule in a sense, if you were used to one.
That's right.
That can be, yeah, a lot of challenges there. That it is great seeing some, well, when I was growing up, entrepreneurship really wasn't recognized, and it's great to see now that there is so much support for the overall community as well as the veteran population as well. There's quite a few different organizations that are helping that transition period and coaching through seeing if they might be right to be into that entrepreneurial
There
lifestyle.
certainly are, and I think it's important for the community to come together and recognize all those organizations, but also there's so many of them that are out there that are just startups that are trying to do something. I think it's actually saturated, so that's one of the things that we try to do locally in the community with the Chamber of Commerce and some of the other institutions locally here in Tampa is really pulling all those institutions together and really focusing on the ones that are making a difference and an impact in the community and trying to focus our efforts on supporting those.
Yeah, and you have there's so many things that you want to do, and it's interesting as you and I have had a chance to talk over time. You're just full of ideas and innovation, and so did that kind of weigh on you during 20 years of service, or did that kind of take place after, as you started to once you allowed that to kind of to nurture? How do you say that? Nurture.
That's interesting. That's a good question. So I would say that's probably my entire life. I think since a young age, I was always a serial entrepreneur, having started work probably at the age of 8, maybe up in Maine, doing various different odd jobs, and then starting a lawnmower business at the age of 11, I think. And of course, I wasn't paying taxes back then. Hopefully, nobody in the IRS is listening. That was. However, it was cash under the table there.
Mowing grass. I think that when you're 9, I think it's
edging,
okay.
all that good stuff, right? So I was always like that. Dropped out of school at the age of 17, AB student, but just needed to work. I was ready to enter the world, and I wanted to get out of the state and get somewhere that was a little bit more populated, busier. So I joined the military just after turning 17, after my parents signed for me, and went into the conventional military for about a year, and then I went through the Special Forces training and did a lot there, and then I had a chance to try out for one of the special mission units, and I got selected, and I worked there for a long time. The opportunity that I had in the special unit allowed me to, we would find a need, and we would create our own solution, and we were pretty well funded, so that allowed me to learn a lot about maybe some light manufacturing tricks of the trade. So we made a lot of our own things, prototypes first, and then we'd field it out to industry to come up with solutions for us, and it was really the cutting edge. It's a cutting edge, tip of the spear type community that we were part of. So I think that spurred that
innovation side
That innovation from inside, yeah. So it was funny because in 2001, obviously, we went into Afghanistan right away, and one of the things that one of the guys shot back saying that they needed was a backlit compass. because the digital compasses that were coming out at the time kept having to be recalibrated. So myself and another guy put together an electroluminescent panel behind a magnetic compass. And typically, if you have electricity near a magnetically sensitive object like a compass needle, it'll throw the needle off and you can't see true north. But in this case, because we used an electroluminescent panel made of chemicals that are excited by a very, very minute amount of DC power, it didn't affect the needle. So we decided we would try to get the military to release patent rights to us, and ultimately we got them to do that. And so I invented and patented a backlit magnetic wrist compass. And it took many, many years, but when I was just about retiring, I submitted for and we won a contract from the government to design and build 200 for the government. I think it was a $278,000 award.
Oh, nice.
So that was one of the early on projects as I was retiring, is to start a company around that. So I will tell you, I learned a lot.
But everything takes time. It's interesting. I think so often people have misconceptions that everything's just going to take off and be. And I think it's great. I mean, it's great to be optimistic, and it's great. Sometimes it's good to be naive in a sense and not really know, because I will say I don't know that if I knew exactly the path I would have to endure, or what all my journey entailed. Not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. When it's the same thing I think a lot of people think, because obviously after inventing and patenting something and actually having the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office issue us a patent number, everybody that knew about that came to me asking me, hey, I got this great idea. I want to patent this. What do you think? Is it going to be? And I tell them all the same thing. I thought the same thing. Hey, we got a patent now. All I have to do now is contact Brunton or Silva or one of these major compass manufacturers, and we'll sell them the patent. I'm sure it's worth $1 million. Everybody thinks it's worth $1 million. Whatever, if you patent something, it's worth $1 million. Not that easy. And now that I know business a little more, the chances that an enlisted guy with no experience is going to be able to reach out and contact somebody in the chain of command in one of these companies that would actually entertain purchasing patent rights, it just was futile. So we decided we were going to have to go ahead and start a company ourselves and manufacture it ourselves. And going from nothing to starting a manufacturing company, we had molds made in China. We bought materials from China, we bought materials from Switzerland, we bought materials from all over the United States, and we had them shipped in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were ultrasonically welding our own compasses, and we went
in North Carolina?
Right, I was in North Carolina at the time, and it was a serious process. We fortunately got through that first contract. We thought it would take less than 12 months. We extended, I think it was a total of 19 months. We delivered the product, and then we owned everything that we had, and we continued producing. But I will tell you, over a period of, 2002 until 2016, I think, so it's at 14 years, I invested $100,000 of my own money, which was very hard-earned money that I couldn't afford probably at the time. And I walked away with nothing because I gave my 51% to the co-owner of the company, simply because I knew that it needed so much more work that I couldn't put into it, and I had put so many hours into it over the years. But when I walked away, I didn't look at that as a failure. I looked at that as an Ivy League education that I could have never gotten in any college anywhere around the world. I learned so much about branding and marketing and value-added tax. And
we talked earlier about a business or getting older and how time goes so fast, and it's one of the drawbacks, I think, to getting older. But I will say the wisdom, if we allow ourselves to grow through our journey and take in everything that we've learned, I mean, there's so much value for ourselves at being the age that we are, to have gone through the experiences that we have, to have the knowledge and wisdom that we do.
There is, and you know, I like to, one of the things that I like to do is give that back.
Yeah.
One thing that I found, and I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, is, you know, you learn all these things about business, and especially getting in defense contracting. I mean, I was not an officer in the military. I was a knuckle dragger. I was a gun toter, a communicator. I was not in the acquisition world. I was not in the contract world, which is all the things that you deal with as a defense contractor, only on the industry side. I knew nothing about any of these things. So I had to learn everything the hard way, and it was really hard. And trying to get someone to give you the information that you need, how do you do a pricing proposal, what's an indirect rate, how do you get a facility clearance, all of these things, that's not readily available information. There's no guidebook that says step 1, step 2, all the way through.
Unfortunately not, right?
And I think it's the competitiveness of the business, but you're not going to have a CEO from a company sit down with you and explain exactly how to start and run a defense contracting business, or most any business, unless you just get lucky. Well, I wasn't lucky. I had a few CEOs or senior members of companies that gave me little pieces of information, but none of them really gave me the keys to the castle. It was something that took years of trial and error and grit and determination to learn. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I like to do, is as much time as I can give people that are interested, that I think have the aptitude and the drive. I will sit with them and tell them just everything that I know, that I can remember about starting a business, what you have to be concerned about, what you have to plan for, how you should think about strategy and marketing and the way ahead, and all of those things that you have to do in order to be successful in business. I think it's important.
Yeah, and I commend you for doing that. I definitely think it's important. Otherwise, because people, there is no way else of knowing unless you have mentors in your life. And we talk about mentors all the time on the show, you know, having someone that can help guide you. You and I had sat down once and had a conversation about contracting with the government, and just how and I'm trying to think how you put it, but because the larger companies typically went after some of these larger accounts, right? But there were ways for the smaller companies to get in with it too.
Correct.
So I thought, yeah, share that a little bit, because maybe that'll help shine some light on
right. So the
people
large
that might be
businesses
working on
out there, the Lockheed Martins, the Northrop Grummans, the CACI, the khakis out there, they are very well established large businesses. They have a lot of prime contracts, what we call prime contracts. That means the government has put out a solicitation, and they've either direct awarded or they've competed it, and large businesses apply and put in proposals for this, and then they're eventually awarded these prime contracts, which means the primes are working directly for the government. They've directly invoiced the government. They're directly responsible to the government for whatever it is that they've promised that they could do for the government. But the government saw years ago that they needed to get small business in the industry as well, because large businesses would monopolize and they could manipulate rates, and there was not a chance for some of the smaller entrepreneurs out there to come up through. And we needed that innovation with some of those small businesses. We need the flexibility, the agility of the small business leaders that are out there. So what they started doing many years ago is they made a small business set aside, and they said, okay, some of these solicitations will just be sent to small businesses to bid on. Large businesses can't bid on them. Large business could team with a small business and be a subcontractor under the small business, but these are just for small businesses. And with the large businesses, when they would win a very large contract, $1 billion contract, a $500 million contract, in there they maybe have some small business requirements, saying 20% of the work on this contract has to be completed by small businesses.
So they outsource it out.
So they'll outsource, they'll bring on a team member of a small business that they can trust and verify, and that they feel were responsible, and so they'll bring you on. So in the beginning, when you're first starting up a defense contracting business, the likelihood of winning a prime contract out of the gate, so directly from the government as a startup with 1 or 2 people, is nearly impossible. You're not going to do it unless you have just something that's extremely unique. You're the only one that can provide it. The government needs it. But it's because you'll get yourself in trouble as a small business because you have a lot of systems. There's a lot of compliance pieces that you have to follow. And if you don't understand what those are, you can get yourself in trouble in terms of how you're dealing with the government, money you might have to pay back that you billed or invoiced wrong, or things that you're not doing that follow the guidance that the government puts out in order to be able to do business with them. And so what you have to do starting out is you've got to reach out and you've got to go to business networking sessions, and you have to find and make acquaintances with large business development folks, and work on getting them to what I used to call giving you some scraps from the table.
Yeah, so
in other
to
words,
consider your business.
Right, we can't offer you anything, but you know, if you would just give us a subcontract and let us fill one position, we'll do a great job, we promise, and anything you need us to do, we'll do. And of course the rates are not great, and so your profit margin is next to nothing, but you're learning, you're establishing.
Yeah, and I can imagine with any business, and we talk about it a lot here on the show, whether it's the military and military type contracts, with any business, I would say go into those types of situations with an open mind, without expectations.
Yes.
I mean, you always have a desired outcome, I guess, in a sense, because down the road you'd love to do business together. But just start building those relationships without expecting it to happen tomorrow. And I know you'd be surprised of what will come your way if you're patient.
Exactly.
And you just nurture the relationships versus working just from a transactional standpoint.
And honesty is always the best policy. So you always want to do right. You always want to do your best to do the right thing. Create those relationships and make them lasting relationships and trusted relationships. What you find in the business, probably in any business, is I'll do business with almost anyone. But if you're not a good team player,
Right.
whether you're the prime contractor or you're subcontracting company with us, we note that, and then we'll definitely look at that down the road and consider whether or not we want to go after future business with you. And I think that's quickly how people can, kind of fail in the industry if they're not good team players. I've seen some.
I think they could fail in any industry if
They
they're not
sure
good team players and aren't trying to work with community, and that can be a downfall for.
There's always competition, but you should make it fair competition.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that, because that gives us some insight on, because I thought that was really interesting. I really had no idea how that worked until a lesson learned. When we walked away from that meeting, I understood that concept. I wondered how smaller businesses were able to compete with the big ones. So that makes sense now. It's interesting when we talked just briefly on going into the military so young, and I can imagine, and mentioning not finishing high school at that time and finishing everything later. Look at you now, and the man that you've become or evolved into with all the experiences. I just think sometimes we're lost. I mean, even me mentioning being a mom at 19, and I'm a wife and a mom, and I just think it's so interesting how if we allow ourselves to grow through the process that life takes us and follow the paths and be open to the opportunities, work like crazy and hard and just stay focused. We're all exactly, I think, where we're supposed to be at the time we're supposed to be there.
I would agree 100%. In fact, I tell people this all the time. Probably when you were younger, maybe your parents told you, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. And you listen to that, and some people take it to heart, some people don't. But the way that I look at it is, if not me, then who? Why can't I be the one that does that? People think, well, you can't do that in business. You're not going to grow to this size to 10 million, 50 million, 100 million in revenue, 1 billion in revenue. You're crazy. And I say,
yeah,
let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, I like being a little crazy. I think we have to be a little crazy because our brains allow us to kind of go and take some risk and go for what is not norm, I guess, in a sense.
I agree.
But the reward on the other side of that is...
One thing that I wanted to talk about during this session, as in Tampa, and what we're trying to do here in Tampa as a community, the greater Tampa Bay community, in this business, you really have to have the foresight to look to the next ridge line. what's going to be next? What's coming next in the world of government contracting? Where are we going? And I'll tell you, Kelly, the most important thing down the road is the world of cyber, machine learning, artificial intelligence, big data analytics, critically important. Everything that we have, everything globally around the world, everything that's running right now is managed with Internet of Things. Think about how important that is, from infrastructure to our waterways, to our airways, to obviously all our secret intelligence that we have, or a company's internal private data. And there's so many companies out there that are dealing with ransomware problems, and you know, the
Really
government.
a lot to deal with.
There's a lot to deal with.
Right.
And so the great thing is that big data and big data tech is coming here to Tampa. There are a lot of tech companies that are coming in and around the area. Of course, we got the I-4 corridor. We have all the things out there in Orlando, but we want to focus some of those big companies here in Tampa. It's going to be massive to be able to support the government and government contracting in particular. Coming up soon this summer, actually, the government's putting out that anyone dealing with government contracts, anyone doing any business with the government, is going to have to meet a certain level of qualification for the cybersecurity maturity model certification. And that is going to put you in a level 1 to 5 that you're going to fall into. And it basically is going to be testing your security systems of all of your data that's kept on your servers or kept locally.
That's probably a good thing, right?
It's extremely important,
right.
But it's a massive undertaking. And so everybody is going to have to get on board with that. The other thing is all things unmanned. So I started up the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, AUVSI, Tampa Satellite Chapter. AUVSI is an international organization that was established several years ago, the earliest organization that was established to look at all things unmanned and the safe and ethical use.
And that number's growing, I can only imagine.
Tremendously. And so what we try to do here in Tampa is, rather than grab a bunch of hobbyists, not that hobbyists aren't important in this type of industry, for drones and robotics and AI, was to bring in on the board of directors a bunch of local business leaders to be on the board. Because it's important. Your business might be insurance, or your business might be investment banking, or your business might be you're a lawyer. So I ask all of them, tell me something, some industry locally that is not going to touch anything that deals with autonomous systems moving forward in the future or right now today. All of them do. Another very, very important area. So all of this leads to, okay, with all of that happening, how do we make Tampa proper? How do we make Tampa the city of the future that is going to lead the way with all things unmanned and big data analytics? How are we going to do that? Well, there's 10 unified commands in the military to support and defend this nation. Of those 10, 3 of them are located in the state of Florida. Southcom, SOCOM, and CENTCOM. 2 of those 3 are located here in Tampa. Arguably, CENTCOM and SOCOM are the busiest of the 10 unified commands because of what's going on around the globe right now. And if you think about that and you look at the defense budget, it's a tremendous budget. SOCOM is the R&D arm, the research and development arm for the government. There are other R&D arms, but SOCOM is really the tip of the spear, we like to say, for all things special operations, which usually gets that new equipment fielded first before it gets pushed out to the masses. So there's a lot of money that gets funneled through those commands. And you know, those commands would rather spend them locally and be able to watch and manage those projects here than they would seeing those things outsourced to other states. So what I like to do, one of the things we were up in DC last week, is really pushing some big ideas that we have in reference to that, but areas that we can support where we see some of the gaps being for the government right now in the future. And so I think we're making some headway there. We have a lot of stuff going on, as you know, downtown with Venick and Gates building the new city downtown. There's lots of opportunities here. There's some big headquarters that are moving here. There's some information that I have from one of the very large global leaders in industry that will make an announcement over the next couple of years, and I'm hoping that Tampa is going to be the big announcement. But there's a lot going on.
It's a
and
very
so
exciting time.
if you're not here in Tampa now, you need to come to Tampa.
Right. Absolutely. Well, is there anything in particular that the community can do to get involved?
You know, get involved with a chamber. Get involved with an
Well, as
organization
far as with the
downtown.
unmanned,
With
what
the
you
unmanned
got.
systems, anyone can join AUVSITampa.com. Sign up, find out.
AUVSI.
AUVSI
Got it.
Tampa.com. So go there, sign up. We're gonna, you know, hopefully this year we'll have some pretty big events coming up. We're trying to get Senator Scott down to sit with Spencer Gore, who's out of California. Spencer Gore, if you don't know his name, he was the one that used to work for Tesla that engineered and designed the battery into the frame of the car. He left Tesla and he started a company called Impossible Aerospace, and he's actually building the frame of drones out of a battery, so we can get 2 or 3 times the flight time out of these drones. He's very interested in what Senator Scott, one of the national bills that he got passed this year in reference to usage of drones. So we're going to try and get a panel here to have both of them down, and maybe if we can get the mayor or Kathy Castor to sit in with us, and just start talking about, you know, where they see the future of drones going, what we see that we could do, and how can the community help, how can the city help, how can the counties help, and what we're trying to do to actually test some of this new technology and bring it here locally.
With all the technology focus in Tampa Bay, I would assume that many would want to be involved in what you're doing, and to kind of be on the edge of the new knowledge or what's going on or information or connection.
I like that play, Kelly. We
I do
wanna
it
be on
wherever
the
I can.
edge. We do want to be on the edge. We want to be on the cutting edge, right? So the Edge
Right.
magazine, I love what you're doing because it kind of brings in exactly what we're trying to do, all these community businesses, all these leaders of the community. But if you're out there and you're thinking, how can I get involved in something? This is the same thing with entrepreneurs or any business that's out there that wants to do something a little different to set themselves apart from the rest of the industry. You got to have ideas. The way to get ideas is not just reading or watching the news, but come out and get involved in some of these organizations that we're starting. The networking that we're doing is incredible. Maybe you'll get nothing from it, or maybe you'll walk away with an idea that's going to set you up for the rest of your life.
And it goes back to a comment I made earlier, going and just without the expectations, you know, and just go and build the relationships. And really that's what Edge has been for the last, 7 years, was trying to create or provide a community that I was lacking in trying to find just some unity with like-minded individuals. And it's amazing when you can talk to people and you start to realize that you're going through similar things, and then you realize, yeah, you're a little crazy, but you're not as far off as you thought. You're really all right. It's good to be a little crazy.
It is, and it's good to have friends, and it's good to network. I'll
yeah.
tell you, I think the most important organization that I've joined since I made it to Tampa is the CEO Council of Tampa Bay. And Penny Parks, as she was talking,
Yes.
just took over the chair there this year, and so very excited about her being there. But it's just amazing, this opportunity to sit in. And I told you about, you learn those things, like when I went through the manufacturing company business and what I learned from it, and I wouldn't give it up for anything because it was worth so much, and I learned so much from doing it. That was learned by doing. Being part of the CEO Council allows you to sit in a room once a month with other owners of businesses that are revenues of $3 million up to $1 billion. And you're sitting in the room and you're actually going around the table and you're talking about maybe some issues that you might have. And they bring up these great ideas and that they've been through before, and you're listening and you're like, oh my God, I never thought about it that way. And it gives you an opportunity to just learn so much from people that are in the community that are going to freely share this information.
Yeah.
And it's all about networking.
Right, and they want to share what they've learned, just like
They do.
you want to share on your manufacturing or just things that everything that you've acquired to this point. Everyone else wants to do the same thing. So it's literally like, digital download. You
great.
just sit there and just learn so much from each other. It is great. You're involved in so many different things in the community, and the Chamber of Commerce, you are part of that as well.
Yeah, I was chair of the military council last year, and I sit on the council this year.
And then,
as well.
yeah, it's so. And then we talked about obviously the AUVSI, and then the
AUVSI.
quiet professionals, and then you have some other businesses that you're involved in. Do you sleep?
I do sleep.
I know.
And I know you ask
It's
everybody
a
on
joke
the show,
question,
but
yeah.
I try to sleep. Actually, I sleep like a rock. When I go to sleep,
When you
I
finally
sleep
do
hard.
sleep,
you can
you
ask
sleep.
my wife, but
Okay.
I do get up at 4:07 every morning. 04:07, I guess you would say in the military.
Why
And-
4:07?
Well, I don't know. That's just the time that my alarm set for.
So not
that's when I wake up.
4:05,
Not 4:05,
not 4:10.
4:07. That gives me
4:07.
enough time to get up, get myself together, get ready to do a quick shower, and get to the gym before it opens at 5. Hit the gym. I spend an hour in there in the morning, a little over an hour, and then get to work, and then I work until I get done, maybe 6, maybe 7, depends on what time it is. Get back to the house, and that's when my wife and I work together until we go to bed,
Yeah.
and then get up the next day and do it over again.
Yeah. Well, but we look forward to being able to do that. It's great to wake up every day on a mission, in a sense. When I feel like a gnat flying, when
They love me.
when you can wake up with purpose and just knowing. And again, it's I guess one advice, or I'd always like to say, is if anyone's ever struggling and just sometimes it may seem like things aren't working out, but they actually are. And one of the things I was going to make a comment about too, back to the point with military, someone that might be retiring after 20, 30 years or however long, or somebody in the corporate world that has been working for a corporation for so long, but that has these inner desires to be an entrepreneur. And really, eventually I think, I hope that this show can entice or provide some type of inspiration and validation that if we can do it, you can do it. Yes, it is hard work, and there are so many sacrifices you have to make, but I can only imagine the pain of regret, in a sense, if you don't finally do what it is that you're set out to do.
I agree. And I will tell you that you have to be able to take on a definite level of risk. You have to be able to tell yourself in your mind that I can lose everything and it's not going to matter, because I can just go right back to work if everything that I've gained I lose. And if you're not willing to do that, you probably shouldn't be looking at stepping out and starting your own opportunity, because it's a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work the way you think, and it is hard work, and it is not rewarding usually in the beginning for quite a while.
See, now I just had them ready to jump off the plane. Now you have them backing up, like reconsidering.
But we have to be honest. So, but I wouldn't advise anyone not to do it. I would tell them definitely do it, and never quit. And when you get knocked down, which you will, get back up, because it's just a slight delay in the direction that you're going.
Yeah.
Figure out a way around that obstacle. If you can't go over it, go through it. If you can't go through it, go around it. You'll figure it out.
It goes back to the Thomas Edison, like one of my favorite, finding 10,000 ways the light bulb won't work. You never really quit the goal of where you're trying to go. There's just so many ways it won't work. So you just find the one that does.
That's
Eventually
right.
You will if you never stop trying.
There's plenty of problems out there. When
Yeah.
I tell everybody at the office when they come in and they bring me a problem, I say, that's great, that's the problem. Now, what is your solution?
Right.
Because if you don't have a solution, I really don't want to hear about the problem.
That was actually one of the points. Roger German, the CEO of the Florida Aquarium, that was his big thing. So I think every time somebody says that now, I will think of Roger German. But yeah, he said that's his whole family and business motto. Don't come to me with a problem, only solutions.
Yeah, I think it works well.
Yeah. So what do you do in your spare time? What do you enjoy doing now?
My spare time is mostly work. Usually it's work, but I do have some spare time that I spend with the family. So I have 3 children and I have 3 grandchildren. All my children are married. Both of my sons work for me. One's a drone pilot for me, and then also for the National Guard here in Florida.
Yeah.
My oldest son runs my program management office as a director of operations, and my son-in-law works in my finance department.
That's great.
So all 3 members of the family, or all 3 of the families, have somebody that's working with us. So I have twin grandsons from my oldest son, and daughter-in-law, and I have a granddaughter from my daughter. And so they were born 12 days apart. So Cindy and I went from no grandkids to 3
Oh, wow.
grandkids in 12 days, and that was almost 3 years ago because they're getting ready to turn 3 here soon.
Yeah.
So we're pretty excited about that.
So spare time, any that you can get a hold of.
Any that I can get a hold
you're
of.
spending with family.
And we try to get them over to the house, and they all live close, so we're really blessed because of that.
Well, we're running quickly out of time. It goes so fast. But wait, what is your definition of success today?
My definition of success is if you wake up and you find yourself happy, you've found success.
Anything that you enjoy reading?
Oh, you know, I like reading the Tampa Bay Business Journal. I like reading LinkedIn posts. I like reading the newspaper whenever I can get it and find time. I don't like reading emails because I read about 30,000 a day, I feel like, but it's a necessity, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, Edge magazines. And you were actually.
Well, Edge magazine is all over my office right now. So Edge magazine and Innovate Tampa Bay and all of those are great. I love all of the local magazines and the local businesses that are here. But your magazine in particular is one that we like to support. And,
I appreciate that.
And I love to read it because it gives me so much insight into the other business leaders in the community.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. The time goes so fast.
It does.
And you almost wonder how you're going to get through it, but it goes so fast. Thank you so much for being here. AUVSI.com.
AUVSI Tampa.com.
Tampa.com. There you go. And we have all your information on the screen as well. And definitely in the meantime, so again, Andy, thank you so much for being with us. In the meantime, check out edgebusinessmagazine.com. You can subscribe to the magazine. You can also subscribe to our newsletters in order to never miss a copy. And again, new issue coming out soon, so we'll have more information on that soon. So again, thank you so much for being here with Andy and I today. And until next time, never stop dreaming. Thank you.